I've been really into playing my Game Boy Advance lately. I mean, just look at these graphics. The sprites, the colors, the animations, they just pop off the screen. This style of graphics is going to survive longer than most modern games. And that shiny Caterpie right there, that's a story for another video. So lately, I've been buying random Game Boy Advance games whenever I find them. Some are classics, some are terrible, and some turn into stories. A few weeks ago, I was walking through my local vintage game store when I spotted this little guy. Spider-Man, Mysterio's Menace. Now, I'm a pretty big Spider-Man fan, and with the new Spider-Man movie about to come out, I figured why not. Worst case, I waste a few bucks. Best case, I discover a hidden gem. Turns out, both happened. Because when I got home, something immediately felt wrong. I popped the cartridge into my Game Boy Advance, the game booted up, the logo appeared, everything seemed normal, and then this happened. Yeah, Spider-Man, rated E for everyone, telling me to, well, you heard him. At that exact moment, I realized something. I didn't buy Spider-Man, I bought a repo bootleg copy. Somewhere along the line, this cartridge had been copied, modified, or completely messed with. And honestly, I felt kind of ripped off, but at the same time, I didn't know what was actually on this thing that I paid for. So I kept playing, and it ended up feeling just like a copy-pasted version of the game. And the more I played, the less I cared about it being messed with. Because underneath all that weirdness at the beginning was a genuinely great Spider-Man game. A game I had never heard anyone talk about. A game most Spider-Man fans completely forgot existed. And after a few hours, I couldn't stop playing it. Because when people talk about the greatest Spider-Man games ever made, they always bring up the same ones. Spider-Man 2, Web of Shadows, Shattered Dimensions, Marvel's Spider-Man, Miles Morales. But there's one Spider-Man game that almost nobody talks about. And honestly, that might be a mistake. Because back in 2001, on a tiny little handheld system, there was a Spider-Man game that had multiple villains, comic book storytelling, upgradable suits, secret collectibles, and some of the smoothest 2D Spider-Man gameplay ever made. And somehow, it disappeared. This is Spider-Man Mysterio's Menace. To understand why this game was forgotten, you have to look at when it came out. 2001. This was the same era where Spider-Man games were starting to go 3D. Everyone wanted the big cinematic experience. Swinging through cities, full voice acting, big set pieces, and then you've got this. A side-scrolling Game Boy Advance game. Not exactly the thing that was going to steal headlines. But here's the weird part. It should have. Because instead of trying to compete with the 3D games, Mysterio's Menace did something smarter. It doubled down on what handheld games do best. Fast gameplay, tight level design, and pure comic book chaos. Most developers at the time were trying to make handheld games feel like watered down console games. This game did the opposite. It focused on being the best handheld Spider-Man game it could be. And honestly, that decision aged really well. Because over 20 years later, the game is still fun. And that's not something you could say about every licensed superhero game from the early 2000s. The first thing you notice when you actually play this game is how smooth it feels. Spider-Man moves fast. His jumps feel responsive. Web attacks actually flow together. And for a Game Boy Advance game, that's kind of insane. Because a lot of handheld superhero games back then felt clunky. like you were fighting the controls more than the enemies. But not this one. This one feels like it actually understands Spider-Man. You're not just punching things, you're weaving around enemies, jumping between attacks, using your webbing to control the fight, and that's what surprised me the most. Spider-Man actually feels agile. He feels quick. He feels like somebody who should never stand still. The game constantly encourages movement. Stay moving, keep attacking, keep dodging, keep swinging around the screen. The result is a game that feels far more modern than it has any right to. And then the game adds something I absolutely wasn't expecting. Upgradable suits. As you play, you unlock different Spider-Man suits. And these aren't just cosmetic. They actually change how you play. Some increase your strength, some improve your defense. Others change your web abilities, which means you can actually build your own playstyle on a Game Boy Advance game in 2001. That's the kind of thing you'd expect from modern games, not something you played in the backseat of a car. And it's surprisingly addictive, because suddenly you're not just unlocking costumes, you're unlocking options. You start thinking about which suit works best, which one helps against certain bosses, which one fits your playstyle. It's a small feature, but it adds way more depth than you'd expect, and it makes the entire game feel bigger than it actually is. And it doesn't stop there, because the game also throws a full lineup of villains at you. Instead of focusing on just one villain, this game basically says, what if we just threw everyone at Spider-Man? Rhino? Electro? Scorpion? Hammerhead? And honestly, that's part of what makes it so much fun. Every time you think you figured out what the game is doing, another villain shows up. And each boss actually feels different. Rhino is exactly what you'd expect, a giant wrecking ball. You spend most of the fight trying not to get flattened. Electro turns the screen into a light show. Suddenly you're dodging attacks from every direction. Scorpion might be my favorite, because the fight forces you to stay moving, which fits Spider-Man perfectly. And then there's Hammerhead, who somehow feels like the guy who wandered into the wrong Spider-Man game and started throwing punches anyway. The boss fights aren't revolutionary, but they're memorable, and more importantly, they're fun. That's something a lot of licensed games forgot. This game didn't. The more you play this game, the more something starts to feel off. Why are all these villains attacking at once? Why does everything feel so staged? And then it hits you. This isn't just a random series of fights. It's a setup. Or something we know all too well on this channel, an illusion, a performance. And suddenly everything clicks. Because behind all of it is Mysterio. Every villain, every encounter, every twist, every strange event, it's all connected. And honestly, that's exactly how Mysterio should be used. He's not the strongest villain. He's definitely not the fastest villain, but he might be the most deceptive. And the game uses that perfectly. Looking back, it's one of the better Mysterio stories we've gotten in a Spider-Man game. So why doesn't anybody talk about this game? Honestly, bad timing. It released before Spider-Man exploded in popularity with the movie era. It was stuck on a handheld, and it was overshadowed by bigger games. Most people never gave it a chance, which is kind of sad, because if this exact game released today as an indie title, people would probably love it. Instead, it became one of those games that quietly disappeared. Not because it was bad, but because it got buried. Looking back at it now, Mysterios Menace did something a lot of games still struggle with. It understood its limits, and it turned them into strengths. It didn't try to be an open world game, it didn't try to be cinematic. It focused on tight gameplay, smart design, and a simple but effective story. Everything serves a purpose. Nothing feels wasted. And because of that, it still feels good to play today. Spider-Man has had a lot of games over the years. Some huge, some unforgettable, and some completely lost in time. But every once in a while, you go back, you find something you missed, and realize it was actually one of the best all along. I bought this game thinking it was just another random Game Boy Advance pickup. Then I thought, I got scammed. And then Spider-Man told me to fuck off. And somehow, after all that, I ended up finding one of the most enjoyable Spider-Man games I've played in years. And yeah, this is one of those games. Thanks for watching.